What is up, guys? DJ Neeks here, and this week is probably one of the most exciting weeks if you're a gamer because it is June. Let's see, it is June 14th, Tuesday, to 2016, and what that essentially means. Hold on a second. Oh, okay, it's just the tabs. Is that it is E3 week. E3 2016 is going on. Now, before I get started, I do want to point out that usually I do watch these live as they're happening, like on Twitch. But I was working both during the first 2 days of the press conferences, so I had to actually watch some later, some like videos of some people breaking it down, saying this is what happened, this is what they announced, because sometimes at the press conferences you get kind of bored because they'll have stuff that'll make you go, oh my gosh, and so then you kind of just want to just read up on like what was announced, like just read up on it, as opposed to having to listen to them drone on, or some press conferences and have this. Some developers think that that's what we want, but we actually don't, So I figured, why don't we kind of go over some stuff, and I'm going to kind of mainly speak about what mainly interests me. Now, I may just gloss over just kind of like stuff that doesn't interest me, because that's kind of like, for example, because you guys know I'm mainly a PlayStation guy, what Microsoft usually announces at the press conference doesn't interest me. I kind of like gloss over that and kind of just mainly excited for Sony's press conference. And of course, then you had EA and Bethesda and Ubisoft. There are certain things that they do obviously interest me. Let's start off with EA, because obviously when it comes to EA, there was only one thing that I was interested in. That, of course, was Mass Effect Andromeda. So, what did they announce, and what else? Let's take a look. So, this is like, it says all the news that EA announced at their press conference. So first off, Titanfall 2. This is kind of interesting though. Titanfall was a Microsoft exclusive, and now it's getting multi-platform. They're actually going to add a single-player campaign, which, if you ever see Angry Joe's review of Titanfall 1, that was one of the things he wished that they had done, was an actual story campaign, because he thought that the world that it took place in was like rich with lore that could be explored and such. So at least that's kind of a thumbs up, I'm sure, from him. They talked about that. Battlefield 1, Now here, obviously, then Mass Effect Andromeda, sadly, very little. There was nothing like big. They didn't talk at length about it. They didn't give it a timely segment to go into depth about it. I guess it's still very much in development. They gave us a trailer which showed the Mako. They showed a couple of possible new companions, an Asari, a Krogan, and what many believe to be the female protagonist in the game. From what I understand, because there's actually, it says more story details. Let's take a look at this. More Mass Effect story details revealed. And no, I'm not going to play any trailers or anything. Basically, it's, from what I understand, it's saying that it features a brand new cast. Describe the main character as being tasked with traveling millions of years into the future, waking up in a new galaxy called Andromeda. A ship called Tempest also appeared, and a driving sequence reminiscent of the Mako was shown. It showed a female protagonist waking up in the ship, a first for a main trailer in the Mass Effect series. That's true, because it was usually male Shepard. And it will be released in early 2017, but no definitive release date was given. And apparently, the protagonist is going to be called Ryder. And it's going to be this one. This was later revealed that they confirmed that, yeah, it's actually going to be Ryder, R-Y-D-E-R. So instead of Shepard, it's going to be Ryder. And apparently this takes place many years after Mass Effect 3. And they've also said what you did in the trilogy, the first trilogy, has nothing to do with this. You can't carry over decisions or choices that you made in the first 3 games. You can't import any of that over to this one. Like, what ending you chose, that is not going to come into play at all in Andromeda. It's going to be its own separate thing. So, okay, obviously I was wanting more. I only got a little tiny bit, and it kind of disappoints me because then, of course, it shows me that EA, they're not really that focused on Mass Effect, which for many of us is their big, franchise because of BioWare, and we love BioWare. But no, they instead, this is the problem with EA and their press conferences at E3. They want to, they also, we're talking about Star Wars, Battlefront, unless unless they give us a Star Wars game that's going to be more than just a first-person shooter Call of Duty clone, then I'm not necessarily going to be that interested. But of course, then they want to talk about FIFA, and they want to talk about Madden, and all, because that's their big money sellers, right? And they want to have celebrity guests and sports athletes who apparently they think, are going to help sell the game, and just issues. Like, this was the only thing I was interested in, was Mass Effect. None of this other stuff I was interested in the least. But do they care about the Mass Effect fan base anymore? I don't know. I really doubt it at this point, because it's starting to feel like they don't care as much about BioWare and that franchise as much as they do their moneymakers of FIFA and Madden, sadly. So that was pretty much the only thing that I was interested in regarding to EA's press conference. Now, there was a rumor, as we moved to Bethesda, that they were going to remaster Skyrim for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And it was confirmed. They are releasing a special edition of Skyrim for PlayStation 4. Now, I had always intended to do a playthrough of Skyrim at some point. I, had thought about doing it for PC because that's usually been regarded as the best one. Plus, it has a ton of mods. But I just don't have the kind of computer to handle it. But this changes things now, because honestly, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this may end up being what I do for the playthrough of Skyrim, is the PS4 version. One, because I think a lot of people are going to be interested in how it looks on the PS4 compared to how it looked on the PS3. Two, they said that mods will actually be available to use on the console version of Skyrim, because they actually made that available to use on the Xbox One version of Fallout 4. Now, that was the Xbox One version. As far as I know, I haven't seen whether or not that's possible for the PS4 version of Fallout 4 or not, because I've shelved Fallout 4, and I haven't touched it in quite some time. But if they say that they're going to make mods available to use for the PS4 version of Skyrim, then I will definitely be looking forward to seeing how that works and how they utilize that. But this is definitely what I was very much interested in at Bethesda. But that wasn't the only thing. There's other news from the Bethesda conference. Dishonored 2. That was the one I was so excited about. And they gave us quite a bit of teasing and detail regarding the game details. Being able to play as both either Corvo or and they pretty much confirmed this. They just outright said, yeah, his daughter. And I was like, oh, okay. So they just kind of confirmed that, because that was always kind of a rumor or speculation within the game that everyone wondered, ooh, is Emily Colwyn Corvo's daughter? Is he the father? Was he, together with the Empress, not just her royal protector, but was he also the father of her daughter? Everyone always wondered that within the world of the game, in the kingdom. Well, they pretty much just acknowledge it here. It's like, yeah, he's her father. So you get to play as either of them in this game. They both have different abilities. They said that Corvo, his abilities are going to be pretty similar to how it was in Dishonored 1. Obviously, we'll have to really check that out, because I very much doubt they would give him, no changes or tweaks at all for the sequel, because that would kind of be disappointing. Whereas Emily's abilities are totally different from Corvo's. I also heard that depending on who you play, it changes what, the missions and the story. So that could lend to replayability, where I could do a playthrough just as Corvo, or I could do a playthrough just as Emily, or I could do mix. It adds a lot of replayability, even more so than what the first one had, which that had a lot of replayability. And then they announced that it's coming out on November 11th. And, which is pretty much the same release date they gave to Fallout 4 last year. So that's what they ended the press conference with, and I could tell that's what they were definitely wanting to promote and push at the end of the press conference. Obviously, you guys know how much I love the first one. I will definitely be grabbing it. If you digitally pre-order it now, you can actually be able to get the definitive edition for the first game for free on PS4 or Xbox One. So if you haven't played the first one, this is a great, because you can get both games essentially for the price of one if you digitally pre-order it now. I already had the definitive edition, so I won't be doing digitally. I'll probably just pre-order it at GameStop. There was also other things, something called Prey. That seems kind of interesting. Some DLCs for Fallout 4. I won't, I'll have to wait, obviously. I'm going to wait. Obviously, because I'm still doing my playthrough of Fallout 3. Then I'm going to do New Vegas after that. So I probably won't get back to Fallout 4 for quite some time. But that's good. That's fine, because I know how it is with Bethesda and these open world games. It was that way with Skyrim. I had to wait like a couple of years, for them to patch up the PS3 version of Skyrim enough where it was actually playable. So, in Fallout 4, it had its share of bugs, numerous bugs, when it launched, because obviously that's how their open world games usually are. They're usually very buggy. So I've shelved it, and I figure by the time I get back to it, hopefully they will have patched it up so much that there won't be nearly as many bugs as there was before. And that was pretty much it, that I was really interested in. Ooh, they did tease a new Wolfenstein. That could be cool. But yeah, that was pretty much, I was mainly interested in the Skyrim remaster and Dishonored 2 for Bethesda. Let's just take a look at what Microsoft announced. I'm just curious. May as well see. Oh, look at that. A new Xbox One. The Xbox One Slim. The Xbox One S. Yeah, is officially a thing. So apparently it's a new, slimmer version of the Xbox One. Yeah. Obviously, it's going to be for the people who don't already have one of those. Otherwise, why would you get another one of the same console, just slimmer or whatever? It's only going to be for people who haven't yet gotten a console yet. Gears of War, obviously one of their big exclusive franchises. Gears of War 4. Let's see. Sea of Thieves. Interesting. Scalebound. Recore. Final Fantasy. Dead Rising 4. Oh, for those who like that series, looks like they're going to add a fourth game. That's nice. Forza Horizon, if you like driving games. Halo Wars 2, obviously if you're a Halo fan. Ooh. Now this is interesting. Gwent, the Witcher card game. So you know that card game in Witcher 3 called Gwent that you can just play? It's like a mini game. It's pretty fun. Apparently they're going to make an entire game just based off of Gwent. So as a standalone game. So that's pretty cool. But here's the problem. Well, for me anyway, because I'm not a Xbox gamer. It's going to be a standalone release for Xbox One and PC. So apparently it's not going to be available for PS4. So I may have to try it out on PC. Hopefully it'll be playable on Mac. I don't know. But that's a bummer for PlayStation 4. For those of us who play Witcher 3 on PS4, well, guess what? Too bad, State of Decay. Oh, Minecraft, of course. Limbo. The Division. Only if you're for some reason a fan of Division when you care about that. Oh, the new Tekken game. Everything else. Xbox Play Anywhere lets you buy Xbox One games on PC for free. Killer Instinct. Yada, yada, yada. Alright, so then Ubisoft. They've put out some interesting stuff. So obviously, let's see what they... there was a couple things I was kind of like, I wonder what they're doing. Tom Clancy, if you're a Tom Clancy fan, there you go, Ghost Recon. Watch Dogs 2. I do have the first one, and... it's fine. It's a fine game, but there are certain aspects of it I really like. I like the whole aspect of being able to hack almost anything in the city through your phone, being able to do all these hacking things, mini games, other stuff that involves hacking, that involves the open world of Chicago. It's pretty cool. It's fine. Unfortunately, there's just nothing motivating me to keep playing. The protagonist is boring. He's not that nice of a guy anyway. He's not a likable protagonist. The gameplay is fine, but the character and the story is just kind of eh. And unfortunately, that sometimes can be the thing that lacks and causes me to not want to play that many open world games like that, where it's kind of like, some people are calling it a Grand Theft Auto clone, and I can understand why. But that's sometimes why I don't usually like those kinds of open world games like a Grand Theft Auto as opposed to a Fallout or a Skyrim, because those are just more interesting to me. But Watch Dogs 2, from everyone is saying they actually like how it looks. It's going to be taking place in San Francisco as opposed to Chicago this time, which, being someone who lives in the Bay Area, obviously that's going to be interesting to me to see how they showcase San Francisco in this game. That'll be pretty cool to be able to hack everything in the city of San Francisco. That sounds kind of appealing. Oh yes, South Park. Fractured but whole. This was pretty funny. It's the sequel to The Stick of Truth. And this time, as opposed to playing on a fantasy setting like Game of Thrones, it's going to be playing on superheroes and the whole, they had a trailer which was joking and making fun of the whole aspect of DC and Marvel, and they joked about Civil War. The title "Fractured but Whole" is supposed to pretty much be a play on Civil War. It was pretty funny, and obviously it's South Park, of course it was funny. Obviously, do not expect a playthrough of that. Just like you'll never expect a playthrough of Stick of Truth on my channel. That may be something I may check out on my own off camera, possibly, but that's not something I would ever do a playthrough of because obviously it's South Park, For Honor, The Division, again, only if you're interested in The Division. Just Dance, they did this quickly and got it out of the way because no one really cares except for casual players. Star Trek, meh. Grow Up, Trials of the Blood Dragon. This was kind of cool, kind of interesting. Trials of the Blood Dragon. Apparently it's available now. I'll have to check and see if it's available to download on PlayStation Store. Because Blood Dragon, based on Far Cry 3, it was fun and it had a lot of hilarious jokes and references to the 80s, and it was like something a lot of people really liked. So if this is the same thing, kind of like in the same manner, rev up for another radical journey as Ubisoft goes back to the 80s. So, out now for PC, but is it out now for PS4? I'll have to take a look at the PS Store to see if it is. And then, of course, they talked about the Assassin's Creed movie coming out, which I've seen the trailer. I hope they do another trailer without the Kanye West music, because that just brought the whole trailer down. But I'm looking forward to seeing that movie, with Michael Fassbender. It looks good. It looks like the movie could be pretty good, even though it looks like they're changing up the story and such. So, but anyway. So a couple little things here. Obviously, I was kind of like, when it came to Ubisoft. All right, but then the one I always look forward to every year, because lately, within the last 5 years, Sony tends to bring it, and they bring the stuff, and they kind of change their format to what they have heard feedback on and what everyone wants, and they usually deliver. And pretty much today, everyone is saying that Sony without question, had the best press conference of anyone at E3. And I think that's probably going to still stand, because even though Nintendo does their own thing today, no one usually says Nintendo had a better conference than Sony. That usually has not happened. So, right off the bat, Sony started off with a very mysterious, ominous gameplay trailer, which many of us were like, what is this? It almost gave kind of a vibe of kind of like Elder Scrolls or something. And you then see Kratos, and you realize it's God of War. But he does not look like the traditional Kratos. He has a full-on mountain man beard. He has a son, and you're like, so is this old man Kratos? This is like many years later, and then they're kind of just going through a forest hunting a deer, and I'm like, this looks nothing like God of War. This looks like Skyrim, and I'm like, are they completely changing the genre of God of War here? Is this like a whole different genre reboot of the franchise? And apparently it's now adapting the Nordic mythology instead of the Greek mythology in terms of the direction of the story and such. But it was like, wow. It was just kind of a shocker that took many people by surprise, that kind of set the tone for many people going, ooh, this looks like pretty good. So, that was kind of like how they started off. And then they came out with various different things that many people were pleasantly surprised and pleased by. The Last Guardian, a game that a lot of people, I really don't know anything about Last Guardian, so I can't really say it caught my interest. It may be somewhat interesting, I may check it out, but like, I'm not as hyped and excited about it as everyone else because I really don't know anything about it, and it's hard for me to get excited about something I know nothing about, even though everyone else apparently does. But they gave it a release date. It's going to be, I think, later this year, following many years of development. So I think it was like October, either October, November, December. So who knows? Maybe I'll check it out on my own time. I don't know if I'll ever do a playthrough of it. It depends whether or not I find it good or not. Here was one of the interesting things. They introduced Hideo Kojima, because he broke up with Konami and he's partnered up with Sony now. Kojima Productions, it's working for Sony now. And he teased a new project he's doing called Death Stranding, which starred Norman Reedus, the guy from Walking Dead. And it kind of gave a Silent Hill type of vibe. Obviously, I was never a Silent Hill player. When it comes to Kojima, the only thing I've ever played and will, remember and kind of, recognize him for is Metal Gear Solid. And so, I don't know if this is something that's going to interest me. Metal Gear Solid, interested me and I became a big fan of it, but his other stuff, not necessarily interested, so I don't think I'd be interested in this myself. Final Fantasy 15, if you're interested in that, I've already acknowledged that I'm not that much of a Final Fantasy player. I've played Kingdom Hearts, but I have yet to really play a Final Fantasy game. I'm kind of wanting to wait until maybe Final Fantasy 7 Remake. I actually do have 7 and 6, and I know many people regard 6 as the best ever. Horizon Zero Dawn. This was a very interesting trailer, which kind of like made me go, I might check that out at some point. It wasn't something that turned me off or anything. Same with Detroit Become Human, because it's apparently by David Cage, who did Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, and I enjoyed and liked both of those games. So I may end up really checking this out and pretty much like it. And I'm considering doing playthroughs for both Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls at some point as well. So, all right, now here was one of the big reveals, because then they were talking about PlayStation VR and the virtual reality stuff that they're going to be implementing. They did say the PlayStation VR will be available for the same price of a PS4, $399. I'm not really interested in getting it because I don't necessarily have any kind of appeal or interest to want to play games in virtual reality. I am totally fine playing games the way I am now with my our flat screens. We have these nice high definition flat screen TVs we play our video games on. I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about gamers in general. Usually these days we play on nice flat screen high definition plasma TVs. Why would you want to put a virtual reality headset covering your face to play the game rather than just watch it on the screen? That's just my own take on it, but I know some people are going to be really excited to do this. They were like, hey, we have PS VR coming out, and here's an upcoming title we have coming out for it. Check this out. And it was from the first person perspective, and it was kind of like giving a psychological scary horror game. The kind of like scary game that we've been familiar with before, obviously. And people were watching going, what is this? Is this Silent Hill? What is this? And then you see a V and two eyes, and you're like, what is that? Is that a 7? And then the text fills in and it says Resident Evil Biohazard, and everyone lost their minds. And then they said, guess what? Resident Evil is not only coming out, but you can play the entire game from beginning to end with the VR. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, just going absolutely crazy and nuts about it. Definitely it's going to be one of the big launch titles, or at least one of the big highly anticipated titles for the VR, being able to play the entire game in VR. I'm sure a lot of people will go nuts over that. Plus, it's the next entry in Resident Evil, and I know a lot of people that are huge fans of Resident Evil. There are a lot of people that did not like 6. I know some people that actually did like 6, but there are a lot of people that did not like Resident Evil 6 at all. Me, I've been kind of on the franchise because I'm not really a scary game kind of guy. It's not really, doesn't necessarily appeal to me that much. I don't necessarily want to play games that scare me all that much. The only scary game series I've ever really played was Dead Space, and that was pretty much it. And I'm not necessarily interested in the VR thing, so while everyone was going nuts, for me it was kind of like, oh, Resident Evil 7, oh, cool. That was pretty much my reaction. A new IP was announced, Days Gone. I think it's going to be a PS4 exclusive. I'm not really, post-apocalyptic kind of game. I don't know. It kind of gave a Last of Us kind of feel to it, I guess. It was like, oh, okay, It was just kind of like there was nothing. You guys kind of get what I'm getting at here with my reactions here, is that there was nothing that made me go, oh, like, that made me lose my mind. Like, there were a couple things I was hoping that they would drop a bombshell on, but they didn't really do that. So my reactions were just kind of, oh, okay. Obviously, they had to bring up Call of Duty. Now, this was interesting. Insomniac Studio, a new Spider-Man game, and apparently it's going to be a PlayStation 4 exclusive. And the trailer looked good. It looked like, Spider-Man, he had a new outfit. The logo, it wasn't black, it was white. And I thought I saw some gameplay in the trailer for a moment, and it looked gorgeous. And it looked so smooth and fluid, and I thought, wow, this looks so good. And it's not going to be a movie tie-in game. It's going to be like its own standalone Spider-Man game. It says, take control of an experienced Peter Parker who is more masterful at fighting crime. So apparently it's going to be like a veteran Spider-Man or such. I'm not really sure. It's definitely not going to be a play on Spider-Man Homecoming or the new Spider-Man in Civil War. But man, the fact that it's going to be a new Spider-Man game and it's a PS4 exclusive, that's a huge win for Sony, especially for Spider-Man fans. Hopefully this is now getting out of the shadow of Activision, who have kind of started to really hurt Spider-Man video games. The latest one was terrible. Obviously PlayStation VR. This was cool. They announced some little teaser things for the VR. One was Batman Arkham VR by Rocksteady, but I'm pretty sure this is not a full game. I think this is just some kind of demo thing. That's probably going to be maybe an hour or a couple of hours or so. It's going to be some kind of very short thing because Rocksteady made it clear that they were not going to be doing another full-on Batman game. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be some kind of little demo or something along those lines just to help showcase the VR. But it was a cool trailer because you had Mark Hamill's Joker talking throughout the whole thing, talking about pretty much as if he was talking to Batman. And it was a real, it was just great. I was just giddy just hearing, anytime I hear Mark Hamill do Joker, I just get all giddy and excited and happy about it, because it's just great. I just love Mark Hamill doing the Joker. Crash Bandicoot, they said that the games are going to be remastered for the PlayStation 4. They didn't announce a new Crash Bandicoot game though, but, who knows, maybe I'll check that out just on my own, just to, because I never played the Crash Bandicoot games. I never really played them. So this will give me an opportunity to actually try them out on PS4. And then they talked about Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, which is coming out in a couple weeks, and they said the demo is out now. And, I've actually already downloaded it. I'm going to try it out on my own. It's a demo for a game that's coming out in a couple weeks. I'm already, going to be, I'm going to have ready to go to do a playthrough of when it comes out. So it was kind of like, yeah, we know it's coming out in a couple weeks. Yeah, no big deal. But it was cool. They had a full orchestra and they were doing the music of Star Wars. And my gosh, anytime I can just hear the music of Star Wars, because it's just so beautiful. I mean, the music of John Williams doing Star Wars is just wonderful. So, I mean, you look at all this and a lot of these things that were, they didn't have any segments in between these trailers and showcase and such that made you go, oh gosh, can we please get on? There was nothing like that in this conference. They just were like, here's a trailer for a game, bye, enjoy, and that's all they did in the conference pretty much, other than by the way, we have we embrace the creative directors. Here's one now. It's Kojima. And then Kojima came out and he's like, hi everyone, I have a new game for you. Enjoy. And then they showed trailer, and that was it. That was all they did when it came to the talking heads coming out and talking. They didn't have any celebrity guests or whatever. try and endorse or anything, or try and talk about how cool the game is, like EA does with FIFA or Madden. Sony just knows how to do their press conferences right, because they have learned and they have listened to our feedback, and they are now doing it right, and they are just destroying everyone with how good their press conferences are. Everyone is praising Sony today for, without question, the best press conference at E3, just making everyone look bad, including Microsoft. No one really has anything that bad to say regarding regarding how Sony did this at this year's E3. They are just on a roll when it comes to their press conferences at E3. So yeah, so that's pretty much if you're someone who is interested in a lot of these other stuff, I'm sure you're psyched. As I said, the only things I was really interested in was, well, before I get to that, if you're wondering, well, what was it I was wanting them to announce or whatever. What I wanted them to announce, and this would have put, especially at the Sony one, if they had done this, everyone would have lost their minds. If they had the people from Square Enix show up and they said, hey, by the way, Kingdom Hearts is coming out this date. If they had come out with a release date for Kingdom Hearts 3, everyone would have gone bananas, just lost their minds. I would have lost my mind, going, oh my gosh, we have a release date for Kingdom Hearts 3, But I have a feeling it's still in development. They're still working on it, so it's probably too early to do that. So that was what I was hoping, but didn't get that. So, so to recap, I was interested in what they were going to talk about with Mass Effect. Didn't really say that much. Just a couple little details, and remind us that, it will come out in the first quarter of 2017, so who knows, it'll probably be maybe March or April, possibly, or maybe even May, who knows. But you guys know that, obviously, when it comes out, I will be all over that, because you know how much I love Mass Effect. Bethesda, obviously, with Skyrim and Dishonored, I was interested in that. And they did kind of tease that they are working on Elder Scrolls 6, but it's like a long ways away. So don't expect anything soon regarding that. Nothing Assassin's Creed related in terms of games. The movie, obviously, but in terms of games, nothing, related at Ubisoft. Just kind of eh. And then for Sony, obviously, the new God of War, pretty interesting. Other ones here, Spider-Man, that was the one that definitely caught my interest. I already, I'm waiting for this. That's just only a couple weeks away, so it was nothing it wasn't like a bombshell or anything like, oh my gosh. But it's interesting stuff. So, and as far as what else is being announced today, I haven't really heard anything that much other than what's going on at Nintendo. But at this point, you guys have heard me talk about how I've lost interest with what Nintendo is doing right now until they change their ways. They tend to just release new versions of the franchises they've been doing for years, which at this point is kind of like, really? Really? That's it? Nothing brand new or anything, which is kind of one of the reasons why a lot of the developers were like, yeah, we're not going to deal with Nintendo anymore. We're going to deal mainly with Sony and Microsoft. I know there was a PC show. I didn't see that though. I don't think I've seen anything here relating to what news was at that PC show. But it's partly because you guys know I mainly play on PS4 and not on PC all that much. So yeah, pretty good. Nothing incredibly shocking. That made us go, oh my gosh, we had no idea that they were going to announce this, and it just came out of the blue and just blew everyone's mind. Nothing like that, really, I think, at least for my interest. I'm sure for a lot of people, no one expected Resident Evil 7 for the VR. No one expected a brand new Spider-Man game. Some of these other ones, the brand new God of War game. A lot of people, we were not expecting some of those, so... pretty good E3 so far. Pretty good. Nothing mind-blowing like it was a couple years ago when Sony unveiled the PS4 for the first time. Nothing like that. Really, I think. That just took everyone just completely oh my gosh, just made everyone go crazy. So, yeah. It's, pretty good news. Some news I was wanting more of. Obviously, I wanted more news regarding Mass Effect, but we're just gonna have to wait. We're just gonna have to wait on that. So, yeah. So, you know, some of these things, it's cool that some of these things you actually can be able to download now. You could pre-order now if you want. They're very fast to do that, especially now that because today is a Tuesday, so obviously that's when they update everything in the store and such. So definitely looking forward to some of these. Whether I do playthroughs of them, whether I do them on my own, regardless, I'm looking forward to some of these. Checking some of these out. They look pretty good, especially the stuff in the Sony one here that they say are Sony exclusives. So this is going to make some people go, ooh, maybe I'll get a PS4, so for some of those who are on the fence, or maybe, I don't know how many this is going to convert. Some people are probably going to, be like, what? A Spider-Man PlayStation exclusive game, this one as well. If this is exclusive to PS4, Resident Evil, and not available to Xbox, this will make some people lose their mind. Like they'll be like, oh, I gotta get PS4 now. Especially also when you see that the price difference is only $399 as opposed to the Oculus Rift, which is supposed to be like $800. But there's the difference is they said the PSVR is gonna have like 50 games by the end of this year, whereas there's really not that many games announced for the likes of like the Oculus Rift and such. So, and the VR was mentioned at numerous press conferences, by the way. So, yeah, that's my take on E3 for this year of 2016. Definitely stuff I'm looking forward to. Obviously, towards the end of this year, because they have a lot of stuff where they're like, it's coming out in October, this is coming out in November, this is coming out in December, and then of course early next year, the one you guys know I'm waiting for is most of all is Mass Effect Andromeda, and hopefully they're gonna give us more info, show us maybe another trailer or two, maybe showcase some gameplay, something to really kind of reinstall confidence in us, in them, because the fact that they gave very little and some details that just made me scratch my head and just gave me more questions than I had before, I'm starting to get worried and nervous that they are going in a direction here with Mass Effect that I don't like, that it's starting to lose what made it so special. And if that's the case, I'm going to be one of the most heartbroken BioWare fans out there. And I will definitely let you guys know, because you guys know I will be all over it. So I will be following it like a hawk. So, and if there's any news or whatever that I think warrants a video, I'll probably talk about it in some other video at some other point, when more news comes out. But until then, I will see you guys next time.